How many drinks do you have a week? Don't worry, I'm not a doctor. You don't need to fudge the numbers. I'm a bartender. Hong Kong has a vibrant food and hospitality scene, and being part of the beating heart of it is what makes living in this city so great. When it comes to sustainable practices in food and hospitality, the question we often get asked is how much possible change can a small action like refusing a plastic straw possibly have? When you look around at the huge amount of single-use plastics in your life, especially in a city like Hong Kong, items that get used once and then go straight to landfill, it's easy to be overwhelmed and think, what possible change can my actions have? Let's take the idea of one bar, one busy cocktail bar here in Hong Kong. Say you have 4 bartenders working behind the bar, 7 days a week. They're each going to make 40 drinks each and taste test about half of those. So each of them is going to be using 420 straws each a week, or more than 1,600 as a team. Across a month, that's more than 6,000. And across a year, it's more than 80,000 straws. That's 160 kgs of single-use plastic, enough to fill a dumpster. Use it once, straight to landfill. That's just one bar. Why don't we multiply that by the amount of bars in your neighbourhood, the amount of bars in a city, the amount of bars in your country, and then the amount of bars in a world. That number grows exponentially, and it's easy to get overwhelmed at this point. What difference can one straw, one action possibly have? Let's look at it from a wider perspective. And instead, we're going to look at the anatomy of the ingredients that make up your drink and take you through the life cycle. I want you all to think of your go-to cocktail order for your bar. Everyone has one. When you go to a bar, you've got to drink your order. Who likes whiskey sours? Yeah? Excellent. Well, according to a study done by Drinks International, the whiskey sour was one of the world's most popular cocktails in 2017. This humble classic, for those that don't know, is a mix of whiskey, citrus, sugar, and egg white. So, simple, right? But let's take a deeper dive and look at what it takes to get those ingredients from the ground to your glass. First up, most important part of a sour is the sour, in this case a lemon. In this part of the world, it's most likely to be grown in China or India. And you have to take into account the cultivation, so the planting, fertilizing, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and irrigation. You have the harvesting to take into account, and then the end-to-end refrigeration that it takes to get it from where it was grown to where you want to drink it. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, nearly 45% of food and vegetables grown globally goes to waste every year, with 20% of that waste occurring at the retail and consumer end. Now that's for cosmetic reasons, such as bruised or ugly fruit, scaled fruit, it doesn't look nice on the shelf, don't want to take it home, or then spoilage once it's in the hands of the consumer. Now, when you're making that drink, if you're only using the juice from the drink, the juice from inside the lemon, and you're throwing away the aromatic peel, the bitter pith, and the fibrous interior, that's 50% of the weight of what was shipped that's going to waste. Next up, obviously the most important part after the sour and the whiskey sour is the whiskey. Depending on your taste, it's going to be either Scotch or American. So a blend of either malted barley or a blend of cereal grains. Same problem. You have the cultivation issues, you have the harvesting issues, and then the fermentation and distillation. At various stages in the fermentation and distillation process, you have the byproducts of carbon dioxide, silage, and effluent, plus all the energy that it needs to go into the actual distillation process. After it's distilled, you have at least 4 years, depending on the local laws, where it's going to age in a cask before it gets put in a bottle, packaged, and shipped to you, the thirsty consumer. But more than 50% of that weight of what's shipped and the energy that it takes to ship it goes towards the glass bottle and the packaging. The thing you throw away when the whiskey's gone. In our cocktail, we need balance, so sugar. In this part of the world, it's most likely to be grown in Korea. Again, same thoughts, cultivation, harvesting. The processing of raw sugarcane down to that nice white pure sugar is going to leave us with the byproducts of slake, of bagasse, and molasses. Then it needs to be processed, packaged, and shipped to you. For a lovely silky texture, we go for egg white. Now, Hong Kong imports 1.5 billion eggs every year from all over the world. When dealing with the idea of egg production, you need to take into account the ethical dilemmas of animal care. So, is the egg free-range, caged, uncaged, free-roam? During the life cycle of the chicken, you have nutrition, care, And then you also have the issue of waste. My father has a farm with 4,000 free-range chickens. I can tell you firsthand, there is a lot of waste. Next, once those eggs are laid, cleaned and washed, they need to be packed, end-to-end refrigeration once again, and shipped to you. Now, if you're making a whiskey sour, you crack open an egg, and you're only using the egg white, what happens to that fat-rich yolk and that calcium-rich shell? Is that just getting thrown away? Finally, especially in this climate, ice. We need our drinks cold. Nobody wants a warm cocktail. So when thinking about ice, we need to think of the issues of the drawing and pumping of water. We need to think about the chemical treatment, filtration, potential desalination, and finally, the freezing. The energy that it takes to freeze a 1 by 1 inch ice cube is equivalent to what it takes to power a regular household light bulb for 6.5 minutes. That's one ice cube. We use a half dozen in the shaker, and then we shake and we strain it over fresh ice cubes. Got to keep that drink nice and frosty, especially in weather like this. So you can start to see the anatomy of a whiskey sour. This is a basic and by no means exhaustive exploration of what it takes to make that one drink. It can take 4 years to make a whiskey sour and 4 minutes to drink it. Definitely not 4 years. Depends on how thirsty you are. And that's just taking into account what it takes to get those ingredients from ground to glass, to get it in front of you. That's not taking into account the solutions that you need for the end-of-life solutions for what's left over once the drink is completed. All the solutions for the waste that comes into the creation of making the ingredients to make that drink. So you can start to see it gets overwhelming. You start to think, what possible impact could I have as one person? When I tried to implement sustainable and ethical practices into our bar program, I thought it would be easy. Walk in, bang, sustainable. Flip a switch, bang, sustainable, just like that. Unfortunately, naive is the key word in that equation. There are so many moving parts and so many elements to consider that it seemed an impossible task to have an effect. After all, you're only one person. I'm just one bartender. It's just one drink. What change could I possibly have? There's a great quote by a man called Douglas McMaster, who's a chef at a restaurant called Silo in England, about the challenges in implementing sustainable, ethical practices in hospitality. He says, zero waste isn't one big idea, but it's thousands of little ideas, thousands of little problems that you come across in hospitality. It's easy to be intimidated when we see in front of us the massive challenge of dealing with the food and plastic waste problem that we have in hospitality, not just here, but globally. But it doesn't mean we can't take that first step and tackle each individual problem as we come across it. No one has all the answers. No one has a one-size-fits-all solution. There's no switch to flip. That's why I want to go back to the plastic straw we were talking about before, because the plastic straw is symbolic of the wasteful culture that we've perpetuated, both as consumers and operators. A lot of the other waste we spoke about today, we can find another use for. It's a byproduct. We can compost or recycle or upcycle or find another life for it, a second life. But there is no end-of-life solution for a single-use plastic straw. We use it once and then we throw it away. It goes to landfill or it goes to the ocean. The idea of sustainable practices in hospitality is one that's grown in the recent years. From a discussion to a trend to now a vital global conversation about how we implement these in our daily operational practices in order to be more responsible stewards and consumers in our environment. Change is happening all over the world as people on both sides of the bar realise the larger global impact that they can have as individuals just by making simple, responsible, ethical choices in the way they consume. Let's go back to that number I was talking about before. 80,000 straws, just one bar. When we switch from using plastic to a bamboo alternative for our straws, we managed to remove that number, 160 kilograms of single-use plastic, from the waste cycle, just by making that one little change, a straw. There's 600 people in the audience today, and let's say on average we use 4 straws a day, for your coffee to go in the morning, for your smoothie or juice at lunch, and those all-important social lubricators at night time. 1 or 2. Maybe less on Monday, more on Saturday. It's junk season, whatever. But if we each decided for the next 12 months to not use a plastic straw, everyone in the audience, that number would grow and grow and grow and grow to more than 800,000 straws that we could remove from the waste cycle. That's 1.5 tons of plastic that we can remove from the waste cycle, from landfill, from our oceans, and from our forests, just by making that one step That one change towards a more responsible future. Right, I could use a whiskey sour.